This little ESC can pull almost double the current of the one it's replacing. Same size, same truck, nearly twice the headroom. That's the INJORA Roverin OR30. And today we're finding out if that extra headroom actually changes how this truck drives, or if it's just a bigger number on a spec sheet. I want to start here because I'm genuinely excited about this ESC. The MBL32 G2, that is right here, has been a great part of this truck. Reliable, waterproof, done its job without complaint. This isn't the old one was bad video. It's here's what happens when you give the same truck more room to breathe. On paper, the Roverin OR30 jumps to 40 amps continuous and a 100 amp peak, up from 25 amp and 60 amp peak for the G2. The BEC output goes up too, more current for a hungrier servo. And INJORA moved tuning of the USB card that the G2 uses into a Bluetooth app, so adjustments happen live from your phone and not from your PC with the USB cable. So when you're driving your truck into the trail, you can just take up your phone and make the changes on the fly. That is superb. Really good. None of that matters unless it actually changes how the truck feels. That's what the rest of the video is about. So let's go on to the next chapter. Before we get into any comparison, I want to actually spend some time with the ESC on its own, because there's more going on here than just bigger current numbers. It's waterproof and dustproof, same as what I've come to expect from INJORA's crawler electronics. This is a truck that ends up in a creek bed and mud sometimes. Even though it's a comp crawler, I really drive this thing. So that's not optional for me. Build-wise, it's a tight, same footprint as the outgoing ESC, same 13 grams. So it drops straight into the same mounting point without any chassis rework. So here we have the old G2, and its home has been here on the right slider all the time. And now we just take that one out and then just put on the new OR30 Roverin. It comes in two connector versions, the PH2 and the one that I have chosen, the XT30. Since I have the Gens Ace Tattoo 2S and the 3S lipos that I run in my Gizmo here. So that lives on the left slider and just connect like that. Really nice and neat. And either connector runs 2 or 3S off the included battery adapter cable. And either way you can change the connector. So if you choose the ESC with the XT30, you get the adapter to the PH2 and vice versa. Mine's the XT30, as I said, best suited for 3S packs. The protection list is worth mentioning too. Low voltage, overheat, overvoltage, overload and stall, and signal loss protection. That's a broader net than the G2 had, and it matters more once you're running high current through it. And then there's the tuning side of it. It's a Bluetooth, as you see here. Right when we are powering up the ESC, the app connects. No hassle with the cables, no hassle with the serial ports or anything. This is an enormous upgrade over the old G2 version that I have here. And to be frankly, I have never been able to connect this one to my computer, so I haven't had any chance to tune it. You use the INJORA Link app. No laptop trip back to the bench, as I said. That's the OR30 on its own merits, build, connectors, protection, but the app is a bigger part of the day-to-day experience than a quick mention gives it credit for. It deserves its own look. Let's actually open it up. Before we get into the comparison, I want to actually walk through this app, because the tuning experience is a real part of what you're paying for here. The first thing we see when we're powering up and opening the app, I'm just gonna close it and then open it up. So now you see that we don't have a connection, but then just power on the truck and boom, you have the connection just in a split second. So the tunability and the ease of use is the biggest upside here. And another big thing is that you don't need an account, you don't need a cloud step, straight to the truck. Just click the pair button and then you're up and running. So the first thing is the parameter settings. We will go through the parameter in depth just in a second. You can just click the firmware update to see if you have the latest version, and that is currently on this phone. Then we have the system settings. You can change the language, auto, Chinese or English. Then you have the about, and then you have the privacy agreement. So when we go into the parameter settings, you see that the first few options is running mode, so you can choose between forward and reverse as we want to have on the crawler here. But if you would run it in a small buggy or something, you can have it with the brake. So when you brake the car, instead of it reversing right away, you have the brake before the reverse. Then you have the battery type, cell count, you can have it on auto, but also if you, let's say that you only run it in 3S, you can set it so it knows that it is 3S all the time. Then you can set the low voltage cutoff. One thing is that you can't actually see what voltage it cuts off on, but you can choose very low, low, medium, high or very high. Then you choose the motor pole pairs. Here it's that setting is correlating the speed or the RPM of the motor. It doesn't affect the ESC or the motor output, it only affects how the RPM is read. Then we have the max forward force. So let's say we set it for 10%. You see, it's quite hard. Let's do it like this. This is a full throttle, but then we only have 10%. So let's increase it to 100. Then we have it on 100. And as you see, it's on the fly. So you don't have to read and write anything. It writes as soon as you release the finger from the screen here. So then you have the reverse force. So here you can set it if you want to have it faster in the reverse than stock. And here you can set the brake force. So if you have the brake enabled, you can fine tune how the brake behaves. Then we have the drag brake, the drag brake force and the drag brake rate. So the force is how hard the ESC is braking, and the rate is how fast the force is applied. So let's say the rate 10%, it ramps up very slowly, but if you have it on 100%, as soon as you release the throttle, it will completely brake the motor. So let's set it at 60% or something, and then okay, let's come back to that. But the drag brake force you can set in from 10 to 100%. Then we have the drag brake PWM period that fine-tunes the smoothness of the drag brake and braking output. The default setting is recommended. Now I'm reading from the manual here. The default setting is recommended. Make small adjustment and test drive if different braking characteristics are desired. The neutral range is, I think, how far you have to push the throttle before anything happens. Yeah, the throttle neutral range is the throttle dead band. So if you have it larger, you have to press the throttle more before the motor actually starts to turn. The throttle curve adjusts the throttle response. Higher value provides smoother low speed control with stronger output at higher throttle. 0 represents the linear throttle curve. So if we have it like this, then it will be a completely linear curve. So let's see if that is true. Yeah, nothing happens, just a smooth linear curve. And now we have it at 50, that is maximum. Yeah, so let's see here. We throttle out very much. Now we are at 60%. Now we are at 90. So let's say it like this. If we have the throttle curve at 0, we have a completely linear curve. But then if we make it to 50, we have it exponentially. So very smooth, nothing really happens until the very end of the throttle curve. Then we ramp up the speed very much. So I think I want it quite low, perhaps 10. And then we have the throttle hold time that maintains a small throttle output for a short period after returning to neutral. So that improves the low speed stopping, I would say. If you have it high, when you throttle out and release the throttle, the motor will continue to turn a bit, but then perhaps it should, it could feel sluggish and unresponsive. So you don't want to have this too high, I would say. You want a responsive throttle. You want it to be so that the throttle or the car is one with you, so to say. Then we have the FOC force that adjusts the low speed field oriented control assistance. Higher value provides stronger low speed torque, but that may increase the motor and EC temperature. So you don't want to have that too high, because then you can have it to be very, very hot if you really torque on it too much. Low speed throttle range that defines the operating range of low speed assistance. Increasing the value may improve low speed smoothness, but can reduce throttle linearity. Over temperature protection threshold. The default is 110 degrees Celsius, but you can set it from 60 to 115. And then we have the BEC OCP. That's over current protection, I would say, recovery. So that is to protect the servo. And then we have the BEC voltage, as I showed you, 5.5 and 7.4. And then we have the motor rotation direction, so you can switch the direction from the app instead of changing it on the radio. Throttle curve in modes other than forward and reverse determines whether the throttle curve is applied in forward and reverse with brake and forward with brake modes. So when disabled, throttle responsive is more direct. So then we have the beep volume. I will actually turn this down a bit because I think the 500 is quite high when you turn it on. One thing is to set exactly how you want it instead of just one slider. Perhaps you could have it like that, but perhaps an arrow or something. And then we come to the auxiliary function. As you see here, now we have the drag brake force set to 93%. But if I press my channel 3 here, it comes down to 10%. So we have an auxiliary signal on the new OR30, and you can have it completely off. So now nothing happens. You can set the drag brake force to whatever you want and it will stay there. But then you can change it more or less like a dual rate now. So max forward force is 10% off, 93% on. So I will see if I can change these numbers. But then, yeah, forward speed, reverse speed, brake force, drag brake force, and the drag brake rate. And then you can change the motor rotation direction. So perhaps if you set it with just forward with brake, you can have it so the reverse is on a complete separate button. So yeah, I will have it on brake force for now. So alright, that is the basic settings. Then we have the status. You see the battery voltage of the truck here. You see the actual BEC voltage, how much the servo is drawing. Alright, check how you change drag brake force, and the only way I have been able to change that is through the radio. So I changed the endpoints of the channel 3, so now we have 100% when we have it switched on, and then we have it on 30% when it's switched off. So I will do some more research if we have a way to do it in the app here, or if we have to do it from the radio. But alright, so that's the basic settings. So it's a quite in-depth tuning ability, and you can change the parameters to your liking. One thing here, the motor pole pairs, if you read on the INJORA's web page, you see that the gold wiper that I have here is 14 poles, but if you turn it to 14 here, the RPM signal will be way off. This is 2800 kV and I have a 2S, so if we take 2800 multiplied with the 7.4, we get roughly 20,700 RPMs. So if we throttle up now, you have the speed here, that is 9,000 RPM it says. So that's wrong. So if we take 7 motor pole pairs and go back, then we have 18,000, so that is more correct. So that is one thing to look out for when you change the motor poles, that it is in pairs here in the app. So now we have the status. Here you can see the actual numbers of the car, voltage, BEC, throttle channel. So here you see the output, or the actual, or the input, I would say. Auxiliary channel. So here you see that it changes when I click the button, and I don't know if there is a way to change these inputs in the ESC. The speed, the output duty, so that is when you throttle up, you see the duty, and then you see the actual temperature of the ESC. So this is a very good thing to have, that they have a temperature sensor inside the ESC, so you can see how it looks. Then you have a diagnostic tab. So if you have a fault or something in the ESC, if the LED is flashing in blue or green or something, you can look what kind of a fault it is. And then we have factory mode. Yeah, I don't want to enable it because I don't really know what it is. So that is the app. It's very easy to use. It's extremely easy to get to use. Yeah, so this is an enormous upgrade over the old serial port tuning that we had through the MBL32 G2 here. Alright, that's it. That's a really in-depth look, and I think I have explained everything. Alright, let's compare the two ESCs, what's it replacing more or less, and what the new one actually has inside of it when we come to the specs. So alright, let's change to the tech breakdown. Quick context on the G2 before the numbers. It's been a dependable ESC on this truck. AM32 firmware underneath, waterproof, tuned through a USB programming card rather than the app. This isn't a case of it letting anyone down. It's just getting compared to something with more headroom. So now you have the full spec sheet on the screen here. We have the continuous current. It's a 40 amp on the OR30 versus the 25 amp on the G2. The peak is 100 amps on the new OR30 versus 60 on the old one. The BEC output goes from 3 amp to 5 amp. Same footprint basically, the same 13 grams. This isn't a bigger part, it's a stronger one. So the only difference more or less is the height of the new one. It's 2.3 millimeters higher than the old one. Numbers on a page are still just INJORA's claim though. The part of it that actually matters is whether more headroom translates into smoother throttle. And that's the next chapter. Here's the real question. Does the new ESC make the throttle feel smoother and more controllable, or is it just a bigger ceiling that doesn't change day-to-day driving? So here we have the Gizmo chassis that I have built out here with the Toyota body. So I will do a test where I'm using the old ESC, and then I will show the throttle percent, and then you can see how the linearity is the old AM firmware MBL32, and then we will compare it to the new OR30, so you can see by yourself how the smoothness is. So alright, I will change to the old ESC, and then we will do the test and change back to the new ESC and do the same test. Okay, the first test is with the old MBL32. So now I will try to show you the throttle percentage. It's right there. So I will try to show you how it feels. So you see here, very slow, 15, 18, 20. And then you see just at 22, 23%, it jumps up really much. So that is one thing with the old MBL32, that it's quite jumpy. You are having a real trouble to really fine tune the throttle when you go up over the rocks. So that's the old ESC. I will now change the ESC, and then we will do the exact same test to see how the new ESC is behaving. Alright, we have the new ESC right here. Power it on. Alright, we have the throttle percentage right there. So let's speed up to see how it behaves now. So let's see if it jumps at 25% or if it's just a linear curve. So yeah, it's completely different. We have a really smooth and linear curve. I see that I have to do some work with my drive shafts. That is why it oscillates. So I will change the motor pitch a bit there. But ESC is miles better, I would say. That's really why I bought it. I wanted to see if we can make our vehicles even better with this one, and 100% a better ESC. So alright, I will do the drive test in the real world now. So I will try the old one first, and then we have the new ESC to see how it behaves, and if this new smoothness really connects to the rocks. So let's see you out there in the real world. Numbers are one thing, but now we're gonna test it in the real world. And here you can see when I throttle to about 25%, the motor just jumps and start to drive a lot faster. So that is the real test that we're gonna do with the new OR30 ESC to see if it's more linear and smooth on the Right, so back at the beginning. So let's switch ESC and then we will do this test again. Now we have switched to our new INJORA Roverin OR30 to see how the field of current makes the ESC drive. Yeah, I can feel right away that the linear curve, the linear throttle curve is a lot better on this ESC. Because when I have driven my Gizmo with the old G2 ESC, it really jumps when I'm trying to be smooth and throttle out from the obstacles that I'm trying to get over. But here it really is linear, so it's really easy to be smooth and get over the obstacles. So I would really say that this ESC is the next generation, and it's a lot better, a lot smoother than the old ESC. Alright, so that's the real world testing, and as I said, I really like how the new ESC is working. And if you think about buying the new Roverin ESC, I really give this a thumbs up. And if you're interested about the car, you can also look up the build video on my channel. We have the Nerd RC Gizmo chassis here, and I really like it. It's my best performing rig in my fleet right now. So perhaps we can add a few more Nerd RC cars over the future time here. And one big note for the channel is that I am now a YouTube partner, so if you want to support the channel a bit, you can become a member. I'm gonna set it up so we have a few different levels, so you can choose what kind of perks you get when you do become a member of the channel. So please click the join button if you are interested to see what kind of perks, and please let me know if you have any ideas how we should set up the membership so you get the most out of it. Alright, that's it. Let's go over to the bench again and finalize this video. So, was I right to be excited? I would say absolutely yes. The new ESC is a really good upgrade over the old one, but of course if you already have the MBL32, then it comes up to your own thoughts. I think if you're going into the brushless scene from the beginning, so to say, this is the one to get. Either way, drop a comment. What ESC would you choose if you buy one right now? Is the price more important than the functionality? So drop a comment down below. And with that, the end of the video is here. Subscribe if you liked it, like the video, and drop a comment. See you in the next one. Bye!